everyone. Welcome back to Good Grief Life After Loss. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to start with a quick apology because you may have noticed I did not release an episode last week. And I promise I do try very hard to be consistent and present, especially for this community, because I know how important that is. But sometimes life just needs to come first. And last week was just one of those times where I needed to press pause and be present in the moment. That is because last week I was traveling back home to Utah for my 24th birthday. And it was absolutely an amazing trip. I spent time in the mountains, time with family, and celebrating with friends, and Harrison was there. And it was just amazing. It was peaceful, it was grounding, joyful, emotional, all of those things. It was great, and it was just a much needed trip back home, and especially escaping the Boston humidity. So thank you for your patience. But now I am back. And actually, that trip home honestly gave me the exact inspiration for today's episode and what I wanted to talk about. So let's dive into it. All right, so being back in Park City, which is both the place where I lived my entire life up until I was 18 years old, and also the place where I experienced the most profound loss of my life, is still somehow a place that every time I return to it is filled with love and just happiness. And honestly, that contrast has never really hit me until this trip. Like, I've never really thought that much into it on how is this a place where I experienced such a horrible, tragic loss and where I went through the worst time of my life, yet it still brings me so much joy to be home. But I was really thinking about that a lot on this trip. How strange and special it is to return to a place so deeply tied to grief and to trauma and yet only feel warmth. Like, my body remembers the ache, but my heart is also just finally in a safe place where I don't know, it only finds the joy and the peace in returning to the place of such trauma and tragedy. Park City is where I grew up. It is where Sam grew up. It's where we grew up together. And honestly, every corner, every trail, every street has a memory attached to it. And I feel like maybe even more than it would have in any other town, because growing up, Sam and I lived in what felt like a million different houses because our parents were divorced and they were just constantly moving, whether it was both of them one year, one of them one year, always within Park City, but always kind of bouncing to a new spot, trying out a new neighborhood. I personally loved it. I thought it was great to be able to live in pretty much every part of Park City and experience all of it. But that means when I'm home, it really truly is like every corner of Park City has a memory and an experience I had with Sam. And sometimes I think about how that could be really hard, and at one point how it definitely was, to not be able to go anywhere without seeing Sam. It's like a breakup. Like, after you break up with someone and you made all these memories with them, like, that exists everywhere and there's reminders of it everywhere. And that's exactly how it is when I go home. I just see Sam everywhere, but thankfully in a positive way, because he is in the community in such a positive way in so many special places. So now when I go back, I'm surrounded by people who knew Sam, people who honestly really knew him, like people who knew him the most. But I'm also surrounded by community members who cherish Sam's legacy, who want to get to know him and they want to live like him and remember him. And it's pretty special to come home to that. That alone is rare and sacred, and I realize how lucky I am to have that. It also made me realize how important it is to have spaces and people where talking about your person isn't awkward or heavy or treated like you're bringing down the mood. It's just a natural part of the conversation. And that is one thing that just completely stood out to me about this trip home, was how often I found myself talking about Sam. And it wasn't even because I was trying to bring him up, but because it just happened so naturally. Like, we were all remembering together. Like, for example, one night we went to an old family friend's house for dinner, and we were just telling countless stories about Sam. They were remembering when Sam and their son were wrestling in the basement, and how Sam was just like such a little devil. Like he would just be asking you to fight and beat him up. Like he wanted the roughhousing, even though he was so much smaller than literally every other person at the party. We were also remembering the most insane story of Sam at our first house in Park City, less than 10 years old, trying to show off to the older kids and attempt to scale from one balcony to another, and ended up slipping and falling probably 10 to 15 feet and landing on pure concrete floor and cracking his chin open on a ski boot and absolutely traumatizing our poor babysitter that night. But it's just like things that I haven't thought about in so long we got to bring up, and they were all such Sam stories. They were wild and dramatic and chaotic and hilarious and just like so Sam. And in that moment I was realizing that I am just so lucky to, I don't know, like have stories that like this that I can tell and I can remember with people that make Sam feel alive. Like they almost pulled him back into the room. It felt like he was there. And he would have loved this conversation and remembering these insane memories and experiences that he had. And I don't know. I just felt lucky in that moment because I know not everyone who's grieving gets to be around people who share so many amazing memories about their person. But even then, honestly, I feel like what really matters is just in general having people who are willing to listen. Even if they didn't know the person you lost, even just having someone to say like, wait, how old was Sam again? Or how old were you? Or I don't know, like, tell me about Sam. Did Sam ever do this? Or like, oh my God, I feel like Sam would have loved this and I didn't even know him. Or just, I don't know. Those questions aren't intrusive. Maybe to some they are, but to me they aren't intrusive. They're invitations. They give me permission to speak about Sam, to retell and reshape the narrative in a way that keeps him part of my present, not just in my past. And something I've been thinking about more and more, which honestly is kind of heartbreaking, but I think just a reality and probably a reality for everyone listening to this, is that not everyone in my life now knew Sam. In fact, as I get older, fewer and fewer people will, and that used to scare me. Maybe it still scares me a little, and I used to think, like, will anyone care? Will anyone remember? Will anyone even understand who he was and what he meant for me? And, like, how will people be able to support me in my life if they didn't know Sam or they didn't know me before Sam? Like, it just felt like there was such a clear before and after, and as I get, almost 10 years away from losing Sam, it feels like I have more people who know me in this after losing Sam life than who knew me when Sam was around, and that scared me. But honestly, this trip reminded me that what matters most is just being surrounded by people who are comfortable talking about grief. Like I was just saying, even if they didn't know Sam, they know me and they want to know about that part of me that will always carry Sam, and that's important. And it's not just about everyone having the same memories of Sam, it's all about having people who make space for your memories, people who ask questions, who don't flinch when you say the word death or accident or I miss him, who don't rush to change the subject when your voice cracks a little, who just leave space for those conversations. Like, that's what I want in my life, not just people who knew Sam, even though I'm so grateful to still have so many of those people in my life, but it's also those people who are unafraid of loss, people who get that love and grief exist together. Always. I think that will never change. But I also had a very interesting experience when I was home. We attended a Live Like Sam fundraiser, and that was a beautiful, amazing, very generous gathering that someone kindly hosted at their home for us for Live Like Sam. And they gathered probably 50 to 60 community members, many of whom I actually don't know if they had heard of Live Like Sam or knew about Sam. And they hosted this beautiful party at their home up in the mountains in Park City. And my dad and I both got up and gave speeches. We talked about Sam, the foundation, why we do what we do. It was a success as there were many tears in the crowd, which wasn't my goal, but also kind of proved to me how many people maybe connect with our story and Sam's story, but also have experienced loss themselves. And it's just heartbreaking to hear from other people who have also had to go through loss. Anyways, After the speeches, a lot of people were coming up to me, not just to say nice things and, compliment us, but also to connect. Like probably 10 plus people shared their own stories of loss. Some asked about Sam, some told me they were inspired even though they never met him, but honestly, the majority of people were coming up to me to share, like, I'm connected with what you're doing because I lost a child, I lost a husband, I lost a sibling, and it was a lot of grief and a lot of loss being shared and told about in just a few short hours. And honestly, that is the kind of thing that both fills you up and drains you so much at the same time. It's just mentally and emotionally taxing to talk about grief with that much openness and depth, especially over and over and over in one night. But also I found it just so deeply fulfilling because in those moments I was reminded that this work, this storytelling, this remembering, this sharing, this honoring those we've lost is so powerful. Not only is it keeping Sam alive in people's hearts, but it also just is keeping grief from being this taboo, lonely thing. It reminds me that I'm not alone, and I think what I really took from that evening is that it reminded so many other people that they are not alone. And it was just this very powerful thing to have complete strangers, most of whom were, many years older than me, come to me and feel like it was a safe place, like they could come to share their stories of loss and grief and sadness with me. I don't know, it was just very moving and obviously exhausting, but very moving, and I felt like being home in Park City opens up the opportunity for me to have so many more of those conversations that I'm having out here in Boston. Like, I don't know. I always felt like I wanted to graduate from high school and escape Park City because I felt like I could only be one thing in Park City, and that was Sam's sister, the girl whose brother died. And that's why I got out of there. I wanted to create my own story, become my own person, create my own narrative here in Boston, and I've done that. But there's something really special about coming back to Park City almost 10 years later and feeling like that narrative that I was so scared about having stick with me for the rest of my life, of being Sam's younger sister, has actually turned into something so powerful that has created an opportunity for so many others to feel seen in their grief journey and to connect with them. I don't know. It was just something I've never really noticed when I've come home to Park City, and it really, really stood out to me on this trip as something significant. Anyways, that was a lot of rambling. So I want to end this episode with something I hope for you, my listeners. I hope that you have people in your life who let you talk about your person, who ask you questions, who make room for your memories, who share in them and laugh in the memories and cry with you, who don't try to fix your pain but simply just sit with it and let you know that they're there for you and they're here for that pain. And if you don't have that right now, I want you to know that you can find it. You can build it. I believe you can build that. Even just one person can make all the difference in your life, to have that one person to connect with. And maybe for you, that looks like reconnecting with someone from your past who did know your person, or sharing a story you've never told anyone out loud and just remembering like, oh, I was just thinking about this crazy memory that I had with Sam and I actually don't think I've ever told anyone about it, and sharing it. Like, that's so special to be able to share those memories with someone new. Or even just texting someone and saying like, hey, I was just thinking about blank today and I wanted to share this memory with you. Like, I just want it to be known that you deserve to talk about your grief and you deserve to feel held in it. But again, as I feel like I've been ending a lot of my episodes with, I just want to continue to press that people aren't mind readers. We can't expect them to know what to say or to be that perfect support system or to even know that you need support. So I do want to continue to say, like, you can have those people in your life who you feel comfortable talking about your loss and your grief with, but those don't necessarily come naturally. That also comes with you opening up your heart, trusting them, letting them in, and sharing your grief and your feelings and your sadness with someone in your life. So I also just want to encourage you to be bold, be brave, take that leap of faith and let someone into your life so that they can be a support person for you, because it's so, so important to have those people in our lives. Okay, I'm done preaching to the choir. Thank you for letting me share all of this with you today. Honestly, I hope these episodes are healing for you, but really they are just healing for me too. And this one especially reminds me of just how important it is to come home, even when that home carries the weight of loss. And I'm sure many of you feel that same way, whether you're still living in the place where you experience so much loss or you've gone far away, but occasionally you go home for the holidays and it's always an emotional roller coaster, I'd say. So, if this episode resonated with you, I would love, love, love for you to share it with someone who might need it. And if you ever want to share a memory or a story of your person or just talk, whatever it is, you can always reach out to me. My DMs are open. I read every single message. I read every single comment. And again, please leave that 5-star review wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It really all helps. It all makes a difference. It motivates me to keep going and keep talking. So, thank you all for listening. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your week. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and I will see you next week.